What's your favorite thing from the 90s? The movies, the music, or the fashion? Let me know. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going through my top 10 favorite movies from the 1990s. I've been doing a series where I go through my top 10 films from every decade, and now we've reached the 1990s. Before I give you guys my picks, be sure to hit that like button and comment down below your favorite films from the 90s. Subscribe to that notification bell to help reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers here on the channel. It will mean a lot. And of course, check out the Unusual Couple podcast link down below for weekly episodes. We have a lot of fun over there. But I say we just go ahead and dive right into this list. So coming in at number 10 is The Big Lebowski. Easily one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, and one of the most iconic comedy films ever made. You've got Jeff Bridges and John Goodman in the lead roles. Jeff Bridges playing the dude, and that silhouette of that character has become so iconic. Like, there are multiple quotable moments from this film. Like, the whole movie's hilarious. And it's weird that it's directed by the Coen brothers, who've done films like Fargo and No Country for Old Men. This is just a straight-up comedy, and it's absolutely hilarious. Steve Buscemi's got a role here. Philip Seymour Hoffman. Julianne Moore's in here. I mean, this is an absolutely stacked cast. It has moments that make me laugh out loud consistently, but there's also just weird moments. Like, this is an eccentric movie where at times it feels like you're watching an acid trip, and then there's like a main mystery plotline as well. So it's a bunch of genres blended into one. The Coen brothers own it here, and it's one of the most iconic, memorable comedies ever made. A lot of people would say it's probably the best comedy film of all time. At number 9 on my list, I've got Forrest Gump, one of the most quotable movies I've ever seen. In fact, the day of recording this, I was actually rewatching some clips from this movie. The movie won Best Picture, and Tom Hanks got an Oscar for Best Actor, rightfully so. This is just such a delightful movie. It takes you on this journey of Forrest Gump's life and all the insane ups and downs. There are moments where he's in a war, moments where he's on top of the world as this ping pong champion, and then there's just simple moments where he's out on his fishing boat with Lieutenant Dan. You grow to love Forrest Gump over the course of the movie. It's surprisingly funny at times, really heartfelt. Like, I always cry at a certain point in this movie when we see Forrest Gump choking up at Jenny's grave. It never fails to make me tear up. It's got a wonderful score, there's tons of iconic moments, and how could you not love Forrest Gump? I feel like everyone has watched this movie at least once in their life, and it's one everyone should watch at least once if you haven't seen it. But next up on my list is another film from the year 1994, Pulp Fiction. This is the movie that put Quentin Tarantino on the map, and it just oozes cool. Like, you've got Vincent and Jules, one of the best on-screen duos ever, played by John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson. And this is where Tarantino's dialogue was like introduced to the world and how great it truly is. Pretty much every line in this movie is quotable. The first time I watched this movie, it really blew my mind the way that Tarantino told the story out of order. And I imagine seeing this in the theater at the time, it would have been crazy because there weren't a lot of mainstream movies like that coming out that were really not in chronological order. The film won the Oscar for Best Screenplay, and it's one of Tarantino's best scripts to date. It's 2.5 hours, but it flies by. There are wild moments in this movie. It's got that Tarantino over-the-top violence and the language. All the tropes that we've come to know from Tarantino over the years were introduced in Pulp Fiction, and it's a movie that I try to get back to every few years. I've seen it a decent number of times now, and I don't rewatch it as much as I used to, but it is a top-tier Tarantino film, and I don't think there's any denying that. At number 7 on my list, I've got the one that started it all for Pixar, Toy Story. I forget how short this movie is. It's like an hour and 18 minutes long, and it flies by every single time. It's just such a simple story of Woody, who's Andy's favorite toy, and then a new toy gets introduced in Buzz Lightyear, takes all the spotlight, and the two of them end up away from Andy's house and they try and get back. It's a really simple plot, but it's so effective. The animation is slightly dated when you look back on it, but I'm totally willing to look past that because of how awesome this movie is. Like I've said many times, it's just a simple story about a toy who gets jealous, and the two characters end up becoming friends by the end of the movie. It really put Pixar on the map. It introduced us into this wonderful world of storytelling, and it gave us Woody and Buzz, two of the most iconic animated characters I'd argue ever. Hard not to love Toy Story. You've Got a Friend in Me, Certified Bop. At number 6 on my list, I've got Dazed and Confused. The film is directed by Richard Linklater and came out in 1993. This is the definitive coming-of-age movie. I don't even know if there's any arguments to be had there. It is the best coming-of-age film I've ever seen, and it takes place in the 1970s, the last day of high school going into summer, and it follows these juniors who are going into their senior year. And it's a movie that I remember watching that summer when I was going from junior to senior year. Like, the first few days of summer, I threw it on and I was like, yeah. I'd already seen it, but it was a rewatch, and it's just like got those summer vibes with a rockin' like dad rock soundtrack. Matthew McConaughey's first ever film role here as Wooderson, and it gave us alright, alright, alright. It reminds me of hanging out with my friends in the summer during high school, and that's something we can all kind of relate to. So like I said up front, it's the ultimate hangout coming-of-age movie. Bringing us into the top 5 is Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park. Also came out in 1993, and it's a movie that changed the course of cinema. I mean, the visual effects in this movie are stunning. They still hold up to this day, though not as strong, but in 1993, I imagine if you went to the theater and saw this, your mind was totally blown. It is an adventurous Spielberg film that brought dinosaurs to life The John Williams score is so damn memorable and chill-inducing. What's not to love about Jurassic Park? Obviously, it launched the whole Jurassic franchise. I think this is far and away the best Jurassic movie, and the franchise always fell short of this first entry. But that's just the power of Steven Spielberg. It has that magic and charm. Obviously, Dr. Alan Grant is the main character in the film, and it's more about him than the dinosaurs. That's what Spielberg gets right. You know, with the shark movie, it's more about the characters and the shark. In this, it's more about Alan Grant and him over the course of the movie warming up to kids and realizing he himself might want to have them in his own life. So he's got a beautiful arc in the movie. Every character in this movie is well written. It's got those quotable moments, those shots that belong in a museum almost because they're just so beautiful. This movie, like I said, brought dinosaurs to life, and it had a huge impact on moviegoing, so I had to have it on this list. Plus, I just love the movie. At number 4 on my list is the OG Scream, which came out in 1996. When people ask me what's my favorite horror movie, this is always in the conversation. I usually throw around 3 names, and Scream is always pretty high up there. I love the movie because it feels so fresh in the horror genre. It's still got its moments of terror and, you know, creepy scenes, but it pokes fun at the horror genre, specifically slashers, and how stupid every character is, and also just how dumb horror movies can actually be in concept. Like, the character of Randy has his rules of a horror movie, and the movie's sort of meta in a way where it is following a lot of the main tropes of a horror film, but at the same time it's fresh because it tricks up the audience a lot. Obviously, we got the whole Scream franchise thanks to this movie, and Wes Craven's brilliant direction here shines. The OG Scream is awesome, and I love the way it subverts expectations from the start, killing off Drew Barrymore in like the first 20 minutes. The movie's brutal at times with its kills and doesn't hold back, but it's also surprisingly funny. Like, it's a good horror comedy, and it's got a great cast of characters. Shout out Matthew Lillard for owning the role of Stu. He plays a great psychopath. I'm due for a rewatch of this one soon, as spooky season is right around the corner. But coming in at number 3 on my list is Home Alone, my outright favorite Christmas movie ever. Came out in 1990, and it's one that I have to watch every single year. In fact, growing up, I would watch this movie year-round. I would take the DVD on my car trips, even if it wasn't Christmas season, just because it means that much to me. You've got the simple story of Kevin McAllister, who wishes his family would disappear. They end up leaving him behind at the house when they go on vacation, and Marv and Harry, the wet bandits, are scoping out the house to rob it. Kevin obviously ends up setting up those booby traps and taking down the robbers, but there's a lot more to it than that. He realizes the true meaning of family over the course of the film. It's a holiday season hit. It goes crazy in the third act with the battle plans enacted, but it's got those moments that you'll never forget. The aftershave scream. You know, I could quote this movie back to front, essentially. I adore it, and I always will. My runner-up is The Lion King, which is my absolute favorite Disney animated film of all time, and my outright favorite animated movie ever made. I grew up watching this one on a loop constantly. It has the best Disney villain in Scar, the brother of Mufasa, who kills his own brother. And then Simba ends up running away, but coming back years later to reclaim what is his, as he is the rightful king of Pride Rock. The soundtrack in this movie slaps with I Just Can't Wait to Be King, Hakuna Matata, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, Be Prepared's a banger. The list goes on and on there, but then you've got the actual score itself from Hans Zimmer, which just accompanies some of the most beautiful scenes in the movie, notably at the end of the film when Simba rightfully reclaims his spot as King of Pride Rock, and he roars in the rain, chills every single time. The Lion King is a movie that comforts me. It's one that I'm nostalgic for, and of course, it had to be high on this list, but taking the top spot is a movie that means a lot to me. Good Will Hunting, my favorite film from the 90s. It came out in 1997, and the movie is beautiful. Every time I rewatch it, it reminds me to chase my dreams and not have regrets in life. Robin Williams won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck won the Oscar for their screenplay. It's just a feel-good movie to me that, like I said, reminds me to have no regrets in life and not overthink the little things. My boy's wicked smart. How do you like them apples? I mean, there are so many quotes you could throw around from this movie. I love the Boston accents they've got, and seeing young Matt Damon, young Ben Affleck, it just hits different now. Son of a bitch, she stole my line. One of the best closing lines in the movie. Whenever I feel down or, you know, want a change of pace in life, I'll rewatch this movie and remind myself what my end goal is. So those are just my top 10 favorite movies from the 1990s. I'm sure I forgot some. When I put these top 10 lists together, it's just what I'm feeling in the moment when I write things down, but then I'll post this video and be like, damn, I forgot to mention this movie. It happened with the other two already. But let me know your favorite films from the 1990s in the comments down below, and be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers here on the channel, trying to make that final push. Check out the Unusual Couple podcast, link down below for weekly podcast episodes with myself and my girlfriend Cam. We have a blast with it. But thank you guys as always for watching, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.